concerns about crime are reflected in the polling results of black voters. Nearly 1 in 4 have been victims of violent crime or have someone close to them who has been a victim. 1 in 5 black voters have personally been victims of property crime in the last 2 years. A majority of respondents feel less safe than they did a year or two ago, but they reject the notion that criminal justice reform has gone too far. This year, black voters will be looking for candidates who speak to the complexity of the issues as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. Nearly half of black voters have an unfavorable view of D.A. Gascon, but his challengers are largely unknown. Nearly half of the black voters are also undecided, which means there's a clear opportunity for candidates to connect with black voters. Our poll makes 3 things abundantly clear. Black voters matter. Black voters are closely following this race, and the candidates for DA have a lot of work to do. KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to the mobilization and use of the franchise to empower our audience to identify and pursue their interests in advancing equity, inclusive representation, and multiracial solidarity. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. We welcome your feedback.
KBLA Talk 1580. You guys ready? We are your election information station. If you've missed the conversations with some of the top candidates for leading offices throughout Southern California, you can just go to KBLA1580.com. They are all compiled and curated for you right there on the landing page for KBLA 1580. That is also where you will find our survey, our public opinion survey of likely black voters in LA County and how we feel about public safety. Joining me in studio right now, if you want to check us out on the YouTubes, youtube.com, KBLA 1580, is a community leader. She says she exceeds all the qualifications for a Superior Court judge with 18 years as a deputy district attorney and 17 years as a dispatcher for the LA County Sheriff's Department. She also says her life experience and commitment to community empowerment make her a champion for all Angelinos. Sharon Ransom, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Running for judge is more than a notion.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So why take it on? Why, you've had a long and successful career.
Yeah, it's very important to me. Growing up in South Central Los Angeles, I was raised by a single mother. I became a single mother at the age of 21. And just growing up, I saw things that were happening in our community, and I still see things happening in our community. And I want to run for judge because I have the background. I connect with the people, and I think we need representation, diversity, inclusivity on the bench. We need people that look like us, that are making decisions for our lives, that know our struggles, know our hurdles and our obstacles. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 30. I didn't become an attorney until I was almost 40. I lived a lot. I've gone through a lot. I put myself through school at night while raising my daughter, and I was a dispatcher for the Sheriff's Department. It was hard work, but perseverance, determination, dedication, it all goes into it. And because of my life experiences, I know what it is to have empathy, to understand where people come from, not look at a case and say, this is a case number, this is what you did, but let's figure out why this person is here. Is it drug addiction, mental illness, lack of resources, poverty, lack of knowledge? And let's put more into helping to make people better so that they don't come back through our system over and over and over again.
18 years as a deputy DA, but that's not how you sound right now when you're talking.
Right. So again, I didn't take the traditional path to get to where I am. I went to school part-time at Southwest College and then El Camino College. I paid for it myself. I got grants. I didn't have parents to put me through school. So getting to where I am, I've seen a lot and I want to do more. I am a deputy district attorney, but people have to understand right now there's a lot of negative talk about deputy district attorneys. But there are some that we have so much discretion. We can decide whether to file a case, whether to reject a case, whether to offer prison, probation, a program. And I like having that discretion because there are some people that need help. They need mental health treatment. And ironically, I've been assigned to the mental health unit for the last 3 years. And I see so much, going on with the homelessness, mental illness, crime. And I see a different perspective, and I see what we can do to try to help people that are suffering from mental illness and committing crimes. And so I'm not about putting everybody in prison. It's about what can we do to make our communities better. And as a judge, we have discretion to do that. We look at a person and see why they're in our system. What can we do to help this person? And in turn, help the community while also focusing on public safety.
Right. So I'm sure you probably heard the promos while you were waiting, or maybe you've heard on the radio that we just did a survey, polling, KBLA and Eviterus. And one of the things that people are struggling to get their mind around is the fact that our respondents, likely voters in LA County, black voters, say, many of them say that they feel less safe than they felt a year ago and that they'd like to see more policing. But on the other hand, they say police reform has not gone far enough.
Right.
And so, how do you read that? I mean, you are from South LA, you're black, you want to be a judge, but you are a prosecutor. How do you, what is that needle that we're threading here?
So I believe, like I said, we do need reform. We do need to just stop incarcerating everyone. However, we do need to take more advantage and have more resources with regards to program. You have people that go to jail, they're released, no programs in place, nothing, no jobs, no ability to get a job, and so we see like the revolving door. I think that we need to utilize more programs, but we also need to look at public safety. And there are just some people that have to go to protect the public. They have to go to prison. They have to go to jail just to protect the public. But there are some crimes, and I think I heard in the promo about blanket policies. I don't believe in blanket policies because I think people are different. People have different backgrounds.
Yeah.
You have to look at, did this person go in a store and steal because it was fun and they wanted to resell the stuff, or did they go in a store and steal because they needed it? And so I think you treat them differently, and you try to help the person that is doing some stealing food because they want to eat, as opposed to stealing just because they can do it, or going in a store stealing alcohol. And when you have a blanket policy, it doesn't help the people.
What do you think about the new bail schedule in LA County?
Well, as a judicial candidate, I can't talk much about that because those are things that come before the
that you'll be dealing with, right, as
Right.
as a judge if elected.
Right. But I will say, because it's always ongoing litigation, what I will say is, I do believe that people that are able to pay bail do get out, and people that are unable to pay bail remain in jail. And I've seen situations where, a person's in jail because they can't pay the bail, and not knowing what their crime is, but they're not going to work. They're not able to make money to, feed their families. And so if it's safe for the community and that person can be out of custody to handle their case, I don't see anything wrong with that. There are people that we need to keep the public safe from, and that I do see.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? You've mentioned you're from South LA, that you did this yourself while raising kids. What do you think that experience, aside from empathy, what does it bring to the bench?
Well, it brings a level of knowledge of being involved in the community and just growing up, seeing different things, seeing police harass people or be stopped by the police, but also seeing a need for, people committing crimes, seeing a need for public safety, a need for a safer community. I grew up playing softball in Helen Keller Park my whole life. So I'm deeply rooted in the community, and the things that I've seen and things that I've experienced working hard, fighting breast cancer while going to school and raising my daughter. All of those things, I think, made me who I am, my personality. I have thick skin. I'm up for a challenge. I don't take anything for granted. It makes me humble. It makes me see a person that comes through court and not look down on them and say, you committed a crime, bad guy. But why are you here? What in your background, what in your person has brought you to where we are? And I think we need to have more of that. We need to have more focus on the people that are doing the wrong and kind of see where we can help to stop it. And it's not it's not a end all be all, but it's a start.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we hear a lot about this concept of judicial temperament. And I'm just trying to imagine what it takes to be diagnosed with breast cancer and then decide to go to law school after that. Talk to me about your character and your judicial temperament.
Well, I think I'm pretty much a laid back person. What you see is what you get. I'm not a yeller or a screamer and I think because I've had to go through so much, I am more tolerant, more patient, more empathetic. I'm very approachable. If you talk to defense attorneys I've gone up against or even judges, we've gotten a lot of reviews when we go through the LA County Bar Association to be evaluated. I was rated well qualified. They talk to these people and everybody, and they always tell me consistently, we hear you are approachable, you are fair, you are reasonable. And that's what you need. You don't need people that just want to fight in the system. You have to be able to work out solutions. And in our mental health unit, it's a collaborative effort. It's myself, the defense attorney, the judge, the social workers, and the doctors that come together to try to see what can we do for this person that has mental illness but is committing crimes.
Tell me about your endorsements.
Wow. So I don't know if you remember I ran last year.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Last year I was in a seat of 6 people. This year I'm in a seat of 3. But I've gotten so many great endorsements. I've been endorsed by the LA County Democratic Party, SEIU 721, LA County Federation of Labor, multiple Democratic clubs, over 25 judges, Citizens for Accountable Leadership, National Women's Political Caucus, defense attorneys, Santa Monica Democratic Club. I had to write them down because this year there's so much more. I feel really good about it.
Yeah, so you tried and now you're trying again. I remember same thing with, Holly Hancock. She tried and then she tried again. Right. Now she's a judge.
Yes.
Tell us how to find you, how to find out more about you, your website, your social media, and all that stuff.
Thank you. So my campaign website is www.SharonRansomForJudge.com.
Number 4 or FOR?
FOR.
Okay.
My email is SharonRansom4judge@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, Sharon Ransom for Judge, FOR. And on Instagram, Sharon Ransom for Judge number 4 for Judge. I had to change them up from last year because there was an issue with getting my my pages and my sites from a prior consultant.
Well, yeah, that happens. Seat number 97, Paul Lee is in the chat. He says he already has you picked on his ballot.
All right. Thank you.
Sharon Ransom, thank you for coming in again. And voting is on right now.
Right. It's starting now, and March 5th is the last date. And I get this question all the time. I live in Gardena. Can I vote for you? Absolutely. I live in Palmdale. Can I vote for you? It's LA County.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah. Sharon Ransom, great to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in. It's always better face-to-face. And we've got another candidate face-to-face, this time Assembly District 54. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Can I get a weight reading on the cat in exam 3?
Zuri needs a new vet tech after their current one literally moved to a farm. But finding an ideal replacement takes some training.
This is like herding cats.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
We all agree that America has a very serious problem.
Okay, KBLA delegation, we need your help as we launch our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We would deeply appreciate you going to our KBLA 1580 website and filling out a short climate justice survey, which will help us better serve our beloved community as we build out this campaign. It'll take you just a few short minutes to complete the online survey, and the information you provide us will be invaluable as we do our part to hold folk accountable and amplify the voices of our people in this climate conversation. When you take the survey, you'll be automatically entered to win seats at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. So, hit our website at KBLA 1580. Help us out by taking the short climate justice campaign survey, and you could be our guest at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. Thank you in advance for your consideration and cooperation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate. The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
And it continues on your ballot. By the way, you should have it by now. If you don't, it'll be in your mailbox at any time, which means you can fill it out and send it back now. I suggest you go to KBLA1580.com and check out some of the judicial and other candidates. Joining us right now, we have a candidate for Assembly District 54. He was born in Koreatown, where his parents first immigrated from South Korea in the 1970s. He's been a nonprofit advocate, fighting for policies that impact families, immigrants, public health, and the environment. He worked at the American Lung Association and helped pass the tobacco tax, which was Prop 56, which raised $1.4 billion to fight teen smoking and big tobacco. He also helped secure $1.75 million in CDC funding for children with disabilities. Now he is the executive director of a group called LA Walks. It's LA's leading pedestrian advocacy nonprofit, and of course works on transportation. John Yee, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for coming in. I always ask people this, but you have a job. You certainly have your passion, right, in advocacy, even though you've worked somewhat in politics. Why run for assembly?
Yeah, the reason I'm running pretty much, to be honest, is what I saw with my grandfather. Like most families, when you have a grandparent who can no longer drive in Los Angeles, what do? You move in with them or you move them closer to you. And during the last 10 years of my grandfather's life, I lived with them. And something we see on the campaign is the best way to know the health of a community is through the eyes of our seniors. And literally, I saw all the major issues that are happening in our region right now manifesting in his life, right? The lack of affordable housing. We took us forever to find him affordable housing in Koreatown. He literally ping-ponged from one uncle's home to another aunt's home because there was just no affordable housing for seniors. Lack of public space. Our communities, our seniors, where they hang out in Koreatown is the local McDonald's. There's no public parks, lack of recreation centers. And so every day my grandfather would hang out at the McDonald's with his friends, hours on end buying that senior coffee. And on one of those days, his friend was hit by a car and killed. And this is a fate that happens in our communities, dense communities, but yet with a lot of pass-through traffic. And so the lack of public spaces, the lack of affordable housing, unsafe streets, undignified sidewalks for our seniors where they don't feel safe, be able to walk. I mean, those things all manifested in my grandfather's life. And I think those are some of the larger issues that are happening in our region today that a lot of our, especially our communities, are facing.
Yeah, LA Times some months ago had an amazing article about how our houseless crisis is driven by seniors who can no longer afford to find a place to live. I mean, what a blessing that your granddad had uncle after uncle to go to. If elected to the assembly, what do you think you can do about that?
It is a travesty. I think the last 10 years, there's been about, a 20% increase in homelessness of our seniors. And these are people that have built our communities. These are people that legacies in which we stand upon. And the fact that so many of them are homeless, cannot afford housing, or lack savings at the risk of homelessness, I think is a travesty. So something that we need to really think about is community-rooted solutions to housing. Something I often say about the housing crisis is that, everyone says housing is a right. Housing is a right. Housing is a right. But the mechanism in which you try to build that housing is the marketplace. And in the marketplace, there is no rule that says housing is a right. Housing is an asset that is bought and sold at the highest price. And so it is in this kind of broken system that government needs to come in and provide a space for housing that is community-rooted. Something that we're saying is things like community land trusts. That is when tenants or organizations can come together, purchase a home, take it off the market, and serve a certain community needs, such as seniors, the houseless, multi-generational families. Fixing our state's first-time homebuyer program. A lot of our families, when we talk about our renters, we want to lower the rents, which is great. But I think we have to have higher ambitions for our renters, which is how do we end up owning the land we live on? And that is a key sort of banner point for our campaign, especially for our seniors. Because if we own the land we live on, we grow with it instead of getting displaced. Our district is 80% renters. So the question is, how do we reduce that to make sure that our communities own the land?
What else would you consider your top priorities coming into the assembly? I know you work on walkability and transportation. Is that it?
Yeah. So, first is housing, like we spoke about. The second is transportation, by far. Every 28 hours, an Angelino is killed in a car crash. The leading cause of death of LA's elementary school and middle school kids are car crashes. And it is our communities of color, low-income communities, where we have that fast traffic that's going through our streets of people that don't live in the community but are driving through our community, and they're killing our seniors and our children at higher rates. And so what we deserve is world-class buses and trains at the end of the day. Our district has some of the highest riderships of public transit. We are a dense district. We are transit-reliant, multiracial, multi-generational. And for me, those are the four ingredients of a modern city. So the question for our district is how do we preserve that and grow with those kind of ingredients? And so making sure you have world-class sidewalks as well that are flat, clean, dignified, bus stops that are safe to wait at. So those are some things that we can invest in through a state.
Yeah, walkability has never been LA's strong suit per se, but you would think that automatically a denser community would be more walkable.
Yeah, you would think so. But for example, Koreatown, I bring it up as another example. We are one of the more denser parts of Los Angeles. Yep. People walk around. You can definitely go walk around. But then if you compare to other cities, how wide the streets are, how fast the traffic goes, and how often people are hit and killed is at a far higher rate. And so we're getting there. The question is, how fast do we get there? but how many people are we going to lose on the way to get there?
Yeah, I've actually been pretty shocked. I've been seeing more and more data about how dangerous it is to walk down the street in LA, from hit and runs, and then even to drive, of course, too. Even coming here, we're in Leimert Park where we're broadcasting. People go so fast on the street.
Yeah.
It's like a freeway. But how do you really change that?
Yeah, this is the question I love, because this is like the $1 million question for Los Angeles. And this is what has been often the answer by elected officials or candidates. They will pit car drivers against bicyclists.
Right.
They will pit bus riders versus your parking spot, traffic versus public transit. And for me, this is not a binary question or a binary choice. The question is, how do we move all of us and transition us to a more multimodal city? For me, the answer is our public transit. It's been there all along, right? Our buses and trains. If we can improve service, better invest in the people that work in our public transit service, our bus drivers, make infrastructure, make it easier for buses to move, like bus-only lanes, then you will give the city an option to get out of the cars. Not everyone. I'm not arguing everyone should be on public transit. Maybe one day. But how do we transition some of these folks into public transit to do their daily life, work, school, seeing family? And so it's investing in these systems and slowly transitioning people out of their cars is what
Should they be free, public transit?
Yes.
It should. We've got just a couple seconds until news, traffic, and sports. We continue talking with John Yee. On the other side, want to get a sense of, why you think your voice is unique and important there in the assembly, and what we can do at the state level that really does impact our life, our districts here in the city. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash drivers are striking across the U.S. on Valentine's Day. Drivers group said Monday they're seeking fair pay. It's the first strike call since Uber and Lyft went public in 2019. The Justice for App Workers Coalition, which represents about 130,000 drivers, said they wouldn't provide rides to and from airports between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. in nearly a dozen cities. Well, Beyoncé is coming out with new music. The African-American singer made the announcement Sunday during a Super Bowl ad and then posted to Instagram that part 2 of her Renaissance album would be out on March 29th. She released 2 singles from the project, Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Did you know Discover wants everyone to feel special? That's why with your Discover card, you have access to 24/7 customer service, as well as $0 fraud liability, which means you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Limitations apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers could have moved into the top spot in the Western Conference with a win over Minnesota last night. They didn't come close. The Clippers lost by 21 in Crypto.com. Minnesota shot 54% and had 33 assists. The Lakers are back in action tonight against Detroit. 7:30 tip-off at Crypto. Women's college basketball fans around the country now know that Juju Watkins is a legitimate star. In a nationally televised game on ESPN last night, the Compton freshman dropped 32 points against Arizona. USC wins by 17. 4 straight for the Trojans. Watkins has had 30 or more points in 9 games. She's 1 game shy of the single-season record set by USC legend Cheryl Miller in 1984-85. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la. It's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness, less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
She's so smooth. So I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
And we are talking with John Yee. He's Executive Director of Los Angeles Walks. It's a pedestrian advocacy nonprofit. He's a citywide leader on transportation. And he also worked on the U.S. Helsinki Commission. And he's got his B.A. from University of Michigan, M.A. from Georgetown. John lives with his fiancée and his doggie.
Thank you.
John, you're running for 54th Assembly District. Talk to me about, what sets you apart from the folks that you're running against.
Yeah, I think our campaign is very much like what is going on, especially with the Democratic Party right now, which I feel like there is a big disconnect, especially in Los Angeles, between sort of what the political class is doing and I think what the public expects and wants. When you have Democrats that are in all positions of power in a place like Los Angeles, I think the question that we should be asking ourselves is, what is then the difference between some of these positions? And I think for far too long, we've had Democrats who are comfortable taking oil gas money, Democrats who are comfortable taking health insurance money, but turning around and saying that they are for healthcare reform, they are for single payer, turning around and saying they're going to fight for the environment. And for us, a way to get cleaner politics is by pretty much having cleaner campaigns. And so we are 100% grassroots. We do not take any corporate PAC dollars, no oil gas money, no anti-union corporate cash as well. And I think we should expect that from more and more of our Democrats. But I think what we're finding more is that there is more comfort among some of these from our political class to take this kind of money. But that influences policy. There are repercussions to that. And so through our campaign, we're trying to give the district a very different kind of choice, one that is beholden to the public, not to any deep-pocketed interest groups.
And would you define yourself as a progressive?
Yes, I would. But that's a term that is thrown around so often, right?
Right.
Like equity, people throw that around everywhere as if it gives it this innate meaning and value. And so for me, what makes you progressive? I think that is the bigger question. Can you answer that instead of saying that? And oftentimes what they'll do is they'll list all the endorsements of different groups they've gotten. And this is my definition to you as a progressive, and this is my commitment of how I will legislate. For me, a progressive is someone who looks at a system and says, these are the rules that we as a society for some reason have swallowed and accepted as law. But how do we change that? So let me give you an example. I said earlier about housing being a right. A way we should challenge that is, no, housing is a right, but then if we put it on the market system as a commodity, then it stops becoming a right. It becomes something we buy and sell. So how do we, by law, make housing a right? Take it out of that context. For me, that is a progressive. You're taking something we just have swallowed as, hey, that is just normal how it is. But then we are trying to, through laws and through changing sort of the way that people perceive those laws, by making it something completely different. And so for me, that is a progressive, who are people who are challenging norms, and by changing laws, by challenging those norms.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we were talking about what we call Pinots on, I just learned the term progressive in name only.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
It was new to me last week. But because I always called them progressive posers, people that just try to latch on and take a policy or an endorsement here and there, but they're not really truly progressive in walking the walk. And I love that analysis in terms of progressives look at systems and not just individual incidents or problems.
Everything is systems change here. I mean, I heard you earlier talking about that building that got spray painted, that got graffitied in downtown, and one can look at that problem and just say, hey, that is an issue of blight. That is an issue of people, ruining buildings. But if you look at the systems issue of how that even came there to begin with, right? Corruption in City Hall that led to productions of buildings that are now completely vacant. Like, that is a systems issue. So when one looks at that problem, a progressive is not going to say, we got to make sure we reduce crime. A progressive says, so what are the systems that have led to that? How do we fight corruption? How do we reduce our real estate being used as political chits? And how through law do we prevent that from happening in the future? That is a progressive, willing to change systems. But if you are taking corporate cash, if you're taking all the money from people who are vested in the system as is, you are not a progressive.
Talk to me about, in the state assembly, you represent for your district, but you also look at statewide policies. And one of the issues in my community has been police reform, right? And the assembly has made some bold moves. Of course, we could see more, but I think about, then Assemblywoman Shirley Weber. I think of Assembly Member Steve Bradford and changes he's made around policing and public safety. What are your thoughts on police reform, public safety as a progressive in the state government?
Yeah, another great question. I mean, I think this is in the context, going back to my metaphor, is like, what are the systems that we can change here? I believe there's been a tendency to look at law enforcement, just the mere presence of a law enforcement in a certain space, as that equating safety, and I disagree with that. I'll give you an example. So when LA Metro tried to renew their police contract, I was actually vocal in opposition to it. I take the subway and train every day. I was there when we had that contract in place, and there was no safety because the police officers were actually never on the platform. They were always up on the street level. And so I opposed that. So what we said is, rethink safety. The mere presence of a law enforcement officer on a subway platform does not always equate to safety. And so other ways of bringing safety to like a subway station could be better lighting, better service, so your neighbors are waiting there with you, so you have some community there. Bringing in street vendors, bringing in more life and commerce into the subway stations, putting more public seating so people feel more comfortable in there, improving service. And so these are ways that we can create safety through community-rooted solutions. And a perfect example I give is, Disneyland. Why do you feel safe in Disneyland? It's not because there's police officers everywhere. It's not because you have Disney staff everywhere. It's because it's busy and bustling. That is the benefit of a public space, and especially for our district, that is the urban core of LA, that is dense. That is a solution that we can actually bring out. By creating more welcoming public spaces, we eventually create more safety and a less reliance on police officers.
It's funny you bring up this idea of the different sections of the Democratic Party, right? The Democratic Party is a big tent. And I always say I'm the progressive edge. I believe I am. Although now, y'all younger generations be pushing the envelope even further, right? I had one veteran politician who I won't name tell me that they believe within the next 5 years, the progressive wing, the progressive element of the Democratic Party will be in charge. How do you see that?
I agree with that. I think about when I was in my 20s and the people above us were talking about millennials, the way we talk about Gen Z. And I remember they were saying the exact same thing. And I think this is, a trope that you get often with changing generations, why we point to the generation beneath us and wag our fingers, clutch our pearls. But, follow the youth. They are the future. They're demanding for more work to be done on climate change. They want to fight against corporate greed. Their rates of car ownership is actually declining, right? They want to use public transit. For me, follow the youth. I think they have the future in mind in a more visceral way that I think even me, millennials and the older generation are going to be feeling. So I believe that's the case.
It's funny to me that now millennials are the older generation. Okay. Exactly. Okay, John Yee, if you say so. What is it that drives that? I think about the AOCs and the Cori Bushes who are Democrats, but they're not supported necessarily by sort of what we think of as the mainstream or establishment of the Democratic Party. Sounds like from what you're describing, you may be in a similar position.
I can look at my own life to explain why the conditions are the way they are today with a more progressive push. The cost of college, student debt, that I have to incur as well. My dad immigrated to the U.S. in the 1970s, didn't know a word of English. He made more money, owned a home, far before I did. He is far more financially stable than I am. And here I am college educated. I speak perfect English. And so what are the conditions that I made that kind of generational shift so different? And I think people of our generation, people younger, are feeling this day to day in their lives. And I mean, you could turn on TV, look at the news, look at CNN, and you realize how broken our political system is, right? And so I think there is an angst, an existential angst. And then you layer climate change on top of that, of our youth who really want a serious, again, systems change. And I think that is why progressivism is so rooted in the idea of systems change. And I think, with the killing of George Floyd, what came out was the idea of systemic racism, right? We have to approach this in a systems way. And I think a lot of the younger generation gets that. But if you want systems change, that means requiring serious changing of laws and how we do things in the past. And I think that is the definition of progressivism that I shared earlier, willing to challenge those notions.
Talking with John Yoo, when we come forward, get some more thoughts on what it is you want to do proactively and what you think what if you had a pet legislative peeve or something you really want to change, what would that be? Mr. Yi is running for the 54th Assembly District, and voting is on right now. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
That was another way. I would smoke once an hour. That didn't work either. All that would happen at some point of the day, I would end up doubling up. Other ways that I tried to quit was I stopped buying cigarettes totally. But if I took 3 puffs off of 15 friends, those didn't count because they weren't my cigarettes and they weren't full cigarettes. I went through a lot.
Every attempt is part of your story to quit for good. Visit Kick It California today at kickitca.org.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
It's time to represent your community in the 2024 presidential primary election. When you vote, you get to decide what is best for you, your neighborhood, and your family. Use your power. Make a plan to vote today. Visit plan.lavote.gov. That's plan.lavote.gov to get everything you need to vote in the March 5th presidential primary election. Brought to you by the Los Angeles County Registrar.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of this light of ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This light of ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This light of ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, we're talking with John Yi. He's a candidate for Assembly District 54. You can vote right now. And he is executive director of LA Walks, which is a pedestrian advocacy nonprofit. Did we cover all the transportation stuff you want to get done? What are your, 1 or 2 bullets that you definitely want to get done when elected?
Oh, yeah. The first bill I would put is to make LA Metro an elected body. So LA Metro is the manager of all our buses and trains. Currently, it is all appointed. You, as the public, as bus riders, as transit riders, do not have a choice in who is part of the LA Metro board. And the fact that all the decisions of our LA Metro board are being decided by people who rarely take public transit, for me, is a travesty, and that's something that we need to change. So that would be one of the first things I would do.
And one of the first things or first couple things you would aim to change or fix?
On the metro system or just
in general?
Oh, just in general. I would go back to what I was saying earlier about housing. I think one of the things we need to fix is our first-time homebuyers program. It is not working for working-class families. And so if communities and working class families can own the home they live on, then we can grow with it.
And tell me about your endorsements and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the endorsements, some of the proud endorsements we've gotten is from LA City Controller Kenneth Mejia. We've gotten endorsed by LAUSD Board President Jackie Goldberg. The East Area Progressive Democrat Club has also endorsed us. State Senator Dave Min has endorsed us. And my hometown Democratic club that I was part of and sort of grew in, the Korean American Democratic Committee has also endorsed us.
Wow. You know, how does your family look at your progressivism? Sometimes it's a generational thing,
I totally
right?
get it, yeah. You know, it's funny. In the beginning, you know, I really took cues from my parents on their political views, but as me and my sisters got older, and I think this is a lot with like communities of color with their families and parents, where we became a lot more left. We became a lot more progressive than our parents. And then we ended up influencing our parents. And so my parents ended up voting more closely to sort of the way that we vote now. So
interesting. And what do you see? A polling came out today that basically says California is going to crap. How do you see the future of your state?
Oh, wow. You know, people say that because it goes back to what we were sharing earlier. What is the way people interact with government the most? It is our infrastructure. It is the moment you step out of the house. Everything you see around us, from our sidewalks to traffic to the stoplight. And when we see equalities falling, we immediately connect that with government, as we should, because these are all, again, public services. And so for me, it's how do we invest in those things, right, to make sure they improve so that the daily experience of a person who's walking through their city is able to see well-invested public spaces. And that's why for our campaign, safe streets is such an important issue. Walkability is such an important issue. Better infrastructure is so important. So I think that is something that is so urgent that we need to fix. But oftentimes I think we're not dealing with the basics of our community, right? Oftentimes what you see with a lot of our Democratic Party leaders, they talk about Trump. They talk about national issues, again, which are important, don't get me wrong, but there are fires happening in our own communities. We are an eviction hotspot. Why are we not talking about that? Our sidewalks are sort of breaking apart. Why aren't we talking about that? And so I think we need to really move this focus on trying to have a party that's run on Trump and fundraising versus on Republicans, and instead bring it back home and talk about the local issues.
All right. Tell us how to track you, your socials, your website, all that good stuff.
You can follow us at www.johnforassembly.com. You can follow us on Instagram at JOHNYI_LA and on Twitter at johnforassembly.com. Just John for Assembly.
Okay. And is it FOR or
it's FOR. Thank you.
johnforassembly.com. And on Instagram, you said John Yee
_LA.
_LA. Man, it's hard keeping up with all these campaign websites. John Yee, thank you for coming in. It's a pleasure talking with you, and I'll be watching your race for sure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. It's a perfect time to call me if you got a reaction or some conversation. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima, and we are unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems. to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA Can also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007 they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA Can believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Listen up, City of Los Angeles renters that live in rent-controlled units. Landlords can now increase your rent by 4%. Know these 3 facts. The rent increase is allowed February 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024. An extra 1% per utility up to 6% can be added if the landlord pays the entire gas and electric bill. And illegal rent increase complaints can be filed at housing.lacity.org. Check if you live in a rent-controlled unit and learn more at housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
And we got a few minutes here if you got something to say. If you want to call me, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. The phone lines are open, and of course, you can always connect with me on social, KBLA 1580 on Twitter, on Instagram, YouTube, and I am mostly on Instagram. I'm not going to lie. That's my favorite platform. You can find me at DiPrima Radio, DiPrima, and then radio. Huge storms teeing up on the East Coast right now. New York City and the eastern cities are bracing for big snow. Meanwhile, even though we're in the middle of rain in here on the West Coast, and we're projected to see more heavy rain this weekend, they're saying, I was reading an article yesterday about how we're in El Nino, which is causing all this rain as part of it, along with the climate crisis, the climate emergency, that we may be going into La Nina, which means dry. Drought, and we already have a snow drought. So it's 12 kinds of crazy out there, and I'm so happy to be part of an organization in KBLA Talk 1580 where we are focusing on the climate emergency and how we can not only raise our climate IQ and understanding what the impacts are and how we can help, but also understanding the impacts on communities of color, specifically Black folks, and this is really important. The other important piece is getting out of the doom and gloom phase, that like there's nothing we can do, it's too late, we're all going to die. No, it's not too late. And what we do now makes a huge difference. We have to have the understanding that when we take measures, when we pass laws, when we change emissions standards, when we emphasize policies that uplift sustainable energy sources and move away from fossil fuels, that it does make a difference. We almost immediately see a difference. And that is important because otherwise we can all just throw up our hands and say that, we give up. Okay, pollute away, drive your car everywhere. Don't support public transportation. Don't worry about emission standards. Don't worry about the corporations. And I always say this, and I know you guys know this, but I'm going to keep saying it for the new people and the slow people and the people that still don't agree with me. And if you don't, you're always welcome to call, because I love to have I love to have that conversation and change minds, or maybe you change mine. That happens all the time, which is that we as individuals do have responsibility. I started buying paper straws, and I do my best to recycle as much as I can and put those food scraps in a paper bag and put them in the green container so that they can be recycled, because something like 80% of our landfills are stuffed with compostable items, that kind of thing. Yes, we can do it. But the main responsibility here needs to be corporate. The corporations are the ones that really move the needle. And so for them to put it all on individual recycling is just another straw man. And we've got to be vigilant and relentless in our demands that these corporations change things, because when we demand it, they do. If we stop, we say, "Oh, I love your product, but I can't buy it because it's wrapped in plastic or styrofoam or whatever." When we demand those changes and corporations make those changes, that has a huge impact immediately. And that's the sweet spot as far as I'm concerned. But you'll be hearing much more about this on our station in the days and years ahead. And I, especially this year, because we are at a crossroads. We are, as so many young people have demanded, we acknowledge we are at a tipping point. We are in a place where scientists globally have warned that if we do not turn the corner within the next 5 to 8 years, we may reach a point of no return. We're not there yet. Right now, we can still change the way we live, the way we think, the way we do business to retain a planet that is habitable for Homo sapiens sapiens and our offspring. In other words, the human race. Looking forward to the conversation with Dr. Browder. That's next after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash drivers are striking across the U.S. on Valentine's Day. Drivers group said Monday they're seeking fair pay. It's the first strike call since Uber and Lyft went public in 2019. The Justice for App Workers Coalition, which represents about 130,000 Sunday during a Super Bowl ad, and then posted to Instagram that part 2 of her Renaissance album would be out on March 29th.